All right, what's up, everybody? This is Cody, aka DFS Prodigy, with UFC fighter Peter Barrett. How's it going, man?
What's going on, brother? Thanks for having me on.
So, my first question is what made you want to get into the MMA field, basically?
It was kind of it was something I was looking for something after playing rugby in college, and there was a really high level school out in I was out in Colorado, so there was a really high level striking school where I could go train. And my buddy brought me down, and I just like fell in love with it. Eventually moved home and picked up training, and then as soon as I had my first fight, I knew I was hooked.
So, what was the debut like in Cage Titans, basically?
So it was awesome. I had a blast. It was like it reminded me of wrestling in high school, and originally I got into wrestling in high school just to stay in shape to play lacrosse after football, and then I stopped playing football. I stopped playing lacrosse. I focused completely on wrestling.
Right.
So to have that competitive side of me, be revived through fighting, it was incredible. And I lost my first fight. It was a fucking barn burner. Like it looked like a hockey fight for 9 minutes. You know what I mean? And within 20 minutes of being out of the cage, I'm like, man, I want to fight again. Like I'd fight tonight if I could.
Yeah, fight again.
That was
make it round two. Yeah.
I was like, that was awesome. And my coach was like, yeah, well, if you want to fight again, you're gonna have to wait like 6 to 8 weeks, maybe 10 weeks. Yeah. We'll see what's going on. Like you don't just get to fight, 2 or 3 times a night. They don't do that stuff anymore. So, I was just hooked.
So, how was it now different when going into Dana White's Contender series? How was that your mentality wise going into that fight?
Going into Dana White's the Contender series fight, it was do or die. That was like my make or break opportunity. Yeah. And I knew I had to win by any means necessary. And going in there, I didn't realize he was going to be so much larger than me by the time we had rehydrated and fought. The kid was a fucking giant,
right?
But going into that fight, in doing our research, everything he's from South Korea, so everything's in centimeters, and the numbers weren't necessarily. I don't want to say they weren't accurate, but he was listed so many times in so many different fashions, and
they were a little different.
None of his metrics were the same. It was he was this on this website, he was this tall on this website. I don't even think he had actually ever fought at 155 before we fought, because he fights in kilograms. I think the lowest he ever got was maybe like 160 or 165.
Right.
And I'm a natural 45er. So,
yeah.
Come time to weigh in, after fighting, I was probably like 165, maybe 170. He looked like he was probably about $185 by the time we fought.
Oh, dang, yeah.
So going into that fight, going into that fight, my game plan was to strike with him, loosen him up, then take him to the ground, and just work some ground and pound and try to put him away there. Obviously everybody's got a plan until they get punched in the face, and he ended up catching one of my kicks and put me on my back pretty early, and we kind of went to wrestling and ground and pound right away versus spending the time on our feet. So you just got to stay versatile, I guess.
So who inspires you in the MMA field
currently?
Yeah.
Excuse me. There's a lot of people that I do look up to, just out of like sheer athleticism, and each guy. Yeah, I feel like you can look at any fighter and find things in them that you can have positive takeaways.
Yeah.
Maybe some people have this guy's got a great jab, this guy's got great footwork, this guy's got a great persona, he's a showman. This guy is just a fucking absolute athletic specimen. But I look up to Joe Lozon a lot. He's one of my coaches now. Yeah. And he's just an all-around awesome dude, but he's just like an absolute wizard on the ground. Like black magic, the whole nine. He's a total wizard when it comes to grappling. And he's someone that I can go to with hey, Joe, like my background is wrestling. This is how I do it. How come you don't do it this way?
Mhm.
And then we'll have a conversation about that. And he never just writes off a conversation. He'll take the time. He's very patient. He's a good coach. He's a good friend. So he's someone that I definitely look up to right now, close to home. But then you got guys like, fucking Max Holloway, you know what I mean? Who's just like an absolute beast. And Calvin's my homie. Like that was a hard fight to watch.
Yeah.
Like I'm at work telling everybody, dude, my homie's gonna smoke fucking Holloway tonight.
Right.
And then you see Holloway come out like full of piss and vinegar, dude.
Right.
And just perform like such a fucking
It was crazy.
apex predator, dude.
It was crazy.
Like, you've never seen him like that.
Yeah.
And then if a little bit of hindsight, like he fought for his belt, he fought to defend his belt, lost it, felt like he won, and then re-challenged it and was not rewarded his belt even, and again felt like he won. So I guess like he probably had a really big chip on his shoulder coming into that fight, and it had nothing to do with Calvin. It was anybody that was in that cage that night was getting that sort of treatment. But on the opposite side of that coin right there, I mean, Calvin, man, he's another kid you can look up to. Like, not only is he an incredible athlete, he's got a great fucking chin, a huge fucking heart. You know what I mean? Doesn't know what the word quit is.
Right.
So like, we could talk about the whole roster, and
we can talk about everybody.
This guy's got this guy's got that. So like, I think if you're open-minded enough, you can find inspiration for various different things in everybody.
Heck, even if we're going back in the day with George St. Pierre and guys like that, I mean, the list can go on and on.
Oh my God, George, he was like, he was, him and Bones. I feel like the way that they fought when they were younger, and now that they're getting older, their fighting styles kind of parallel each other. Where they were a bit more reckless when they were younger and a bit more exciting, and now they're they were more in their later career. They're more mindful of the damage they're taking.
Yeah.
So
what does a typical training schedule look like for you? Like, is it different now with COVID, or is this the same old training schedule as usual?
Dude, to be honest, it's like tough to remember what it was like before COVID, because we just cracked the year, you know what I mean?
Right.
And Massachusetts is still like in a semi-lockdown state. So, but classes are getting back to normal. So everything's getting back to normal. But even through COVID, like when the general public was closed to the gym, like the professional fighters that were getting ready for fights were in there with small groups and working. So like, it was just a small adjustment, you know what I mean? So it was like a bend not break type deal.
Right. So what would you give a guy advice for getting into the MMA sport? Like, what would you give your top advice would be?
Do your research. Like, don't be a knucklehead. Like if you want to, I guess, let me elaborate. If you were getting into MMA to get into it as a possible, career, something that you want to spend a considerable amount of time doing, I would say 100% do your research. That means figure out what gyms are in your area, who are the black belts, what's their lineage. You should probably know what that even means.
Right. You should probably look that up.
Like, do you want to do gi? Do you want to do no gi? Are the schools like cultish in your area? Do you have to drink the Kool-Aid to go train somewhere? Or do you have the ability to say, I want to go learn striking from this guy because he's the best, striker in my area. I want to go learn jiu-jitsu from this guy because he's the best grappler in my area. Like, are you going to have the freedom to do those things? Or are you in an area where you go to one school and you're only allowed to go there? Do your research. And that even translates to like the diet and nutrition aspect of it.
That's a huge
one. I would say, don't let your first few amateur fights be dictated by the weight class at which you want to fight at. And most promoters won't gaslight you if you tell them, hey, I walk at like 170, I want to fight at 165. Can you find me someone comparable sizes? You know what I mean? Most promoters are willing to have that conversation with you. At least the guys in my area are. So, and having a good coach to take care of you. Again, and this all falls under the banner of like, do your research.
Right. Right. So my last question for you, man, is what does the future hold for you?
So the future for me is going to be a very busy summer. Unfortunately, last month the UFC released me after my last fight. They said go put together a streak, and we'd love to have you back. So as soon as local MMA is open, I'm gonna try to bang out as many fights as
Right.
possible and get my ass back in the UFC by the end of the year.
So we're talking like 3 fights a night now, my man.
Dude, we're talking well. So like you gotta think about it. Like local MMA has been backlogged for a year,
Yeah.
so you have this whole talent pool
Right.
that has not been able to compete unless they were
Literally, yeah.
traveling. And like
Yeah.
nobody's got money to travel right now. Nobody wants to travel right now. So there's been a few guys that have left the Northeast to go travel to fight down in Florida and over for LFA. But like most of these guys haven't fought. So I feel like as soon as the state opens, these promotions are going to probably be able to do like a show every month because they're going to have so many guys ready and willing
Oh,
to
it's gonna
fight.
be a banger. Yeah, it's gonna
You know
be
what I mean? So it's like, so I just call up Cage Titans. I'm like, all right, let's do you're going to do a show this day. When's your next show? Okay, well,
yeah.
let's get someone on retainer for that night. When's your next show? Let's get someone on retainer for
Right.
that night. Like, let's just stack like 2 or 3 wins by the end of August and see what we can do with that, you know?
Just build up that record. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
So yeah, man, it was nice talking to you and hitting you up, man. I'm really happy we had this conversation.
Oh, hell yeah, dude. I enjoyed it. It was a blast.
Thank you so much for coming on, man.
Yeah, no doubt.
All right, man. I'll hit you up after.
Sounds good, brother. Have a good day.